So good afternoon, everyone from San Francisco Bay Area. So today we are focusing on mock interviews to land your next Salesforce job break. And in this session, we will focus on how we bring our best selves forward when preparing for an interview. Broken down, an interview is simply a series of questions and carefully designed answers. So in this session, we'll walk through what it means to embody the unique talents you have and how to transfer that across the table or the Zoom screen. So our goal for you is to walk away feeling confident in owning your ambition and placing your best self forward. So thanks for joining today. We appreciate your participation and continued support. A little about myself. I am Shiba Tukral. I'm 12 times certified, Salesforce certified. I'm five-star ranger. I was the Dreamforce speaker of 2022 and 2021. I have been elected as a CGL advisory board member. I'm a community group leader. And I am a co-founder and director of operations of kindcause.org, a nonprofit. I work at Jamf, and I also did my Rad Woman Part 1. So some house rules, ground rules for our virtual meeting. Mute your mics unless to ask a question. Post your questions in the chat and be engaging, ask questions, participate in network. So this has been our journey. We started in 2020 as a group, and this is our third year running. I'll post the links to connect with us. So look out for those. And I'll make it short and simple, and I'll give it over to Tracy Green, Santa Monica, California girl. Fun facts about her. She has worked in NASA as a software engineer twice. And she also worked on a project when Barbie appeared first time in 3D in a game. Tracy, I give it over to you for giving a good introduction on yourself and then giving a session.
Thank you. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see what screen I want to. Let me do this. All right, can you all see my screen right here? All right, so just gonna go over, first of all, I just want to just level set. My name is Tracy Green. My pronouns are Tracy and they. So if you're gonna use she, you'd use they. If you use her, you'd use, if you're gonna say she, you'd use Tracy. If you use her, you use they. And if you're calling me ma'am, please call me captain. I'm very gracious. If you do make a mistake, you just correct yourself. I know it's new for everybody, but I just want to put that out there. I'm a principal architect and consultant at my own consultancy, Green Powered LLC. And let's kind of go over the agenda for what we're going to kind of cover today. First, going to give you an introduction about me and why you should even listen to me and why you showed up. And then we're going to talk about who this is for, why we're doing it, and then how we're going to go through this. So let's move on through the introductions. My Salesforce journey. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for about 3 years. Before that, I was a software engineer for 20 years. And I really just...
Tracy, yes. I'm seeing mirroring exercise. Is that the screen you wanted to share?
Nope. What are you seeing?
Mirroring exercise and choose setup language.
Oh, that's very weird. Okay.
Is everyone seeing this?
Yeah, so thank you for saying that. Hold on. Let me stop sharing. That's really weird. Okay, hold on. Let's see. How do we stop sharing here? Here we go. Stop sharing.
Looks like a good exercise nonetheless.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to try our screen again. Let's see here. Screen 2. Now do you see my mock?
Yes.
Wow, that was weird.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you saw me. Can you imagine if we got the whole thing and I just had that up? That'd be pretty embarrassing. All right. The agenda. Introductions, who, why, how. We're on the introduction here. My Salesforce journey, I'll start again. I'm in the ecosystem for about 3 years now. Before that, I was a software engineer. And I just got really, programming 8 hours a day just didn't spark my joy. It just really didn't bring me pleasure. Like I said, I worked at NASA twice, and that was just, the work, to tell people you work at NASA is exciting, but the work itself just really bored me. So at some point, I just kind of I changed gears. I really love children, so and teaching kids. So I went and taught some kids how to program, and again, just didn't spark my joy. So I put my net out really wide. I'm really good at technology, and I gave myself the grace of just whatever. I had no idea what I want to do next, what I want to be when I grow up, and I found a job application for implementation specialist for Salesforce. I'd only heard of the word Salesforce, but I'm like, it was interesting job ads. So I took the phone interview. After the phone interview, when I moved to the next round, I did a few trailheads just to make sure I liked it, because I didn't want, get myself, caught up in something I didn't. I really enjoyed it. I got the job. They hired 4 of us. They said, you don't need no Salesforce at all. For 30 days, we're gonna teach you everything you need to know. So I'm like, great. Day 1, gave us trailheads. Trailheads are great. It's a great way to learn things. I'm really good at technology. The next morning, the boss walks in and said, who wants to help? I'm not lying. I'm ambitious. So I raised my hand and said, I'll help you. So he asked me to research how to integrate Adobe Sign into Salesforce. And I'm like, sure. I went around the office. No one knew how to do it. So I just went on Google, found the manual, wrote up the steps, said at lunchtime, I'm like, hey, here's how someone can do it. He goes, great, now go do it. So day 1.5, I integrated Adobe Sign into Salesforce. And I don't say that to brag or anything, but I say that Salesforce is really accessible. You get out what you put in. So for me, I started off as a junior admin 3 years ago, and I've been a junior admin. I've been a project manager, a BA, consultant, a developer, solution architect, and now I'm independent consultant. So results may vary, but if you want this, Salesforce has it for you. So I just wanted to just really put it out there. Showing up to these user groups is how you get further. And so really why I'm here is my interview experiences on top of that. So I've just been that kind of person who interviews have just kind of come easy to me, like technology, and I'm not sure why. But even in my teenage years, my interviews, I would just be able to I'd get hired on the spot, which I know is kind of crazy. So when I'm like 18, at a summer camp, they're hiring me on the spot. And it just, over the years, I just kept on getting better and better. And it's not by accident. I kept on thinking, oh, I'm just lucky. And it wasn't. I just do a few key things that I do. And I really want to share that knowledge with other people. And this, again, not to brag, but I'd say 90% of interviews that I've been in, I've been offered the job. I haven't taken all the jobs, but I do get offered a lot of jobs. And so there are some things that, I just do well. And for me, knowledge is nothing if I can't share it. So that's why I'm here today, to share my experience with you. So who is this for? It's for everybody. If you're new to the ecosystem, it's really intimidating. You think, to go in there, you don't know Salesforce, but I'm telling you, a lot of things, and you don't start over when you come to Salesforce. You bring everything you have with you till Salesforce. And that's a really important part of this interview process, because you might not be able to answer a question in Salesforce, but all you need is think about what you did in your last job. If you're a teacher, how do you handle that problem? If you were in the Army, how did that come up? So really making sure that you remember you have all these skill set, you just haven't used it in Salesforce. And also for seasoned folks, interviewing is very nerve-wracking and yet very scary and then get very nervous. And sometimes we just don't perform as well as we want. And so it's really important just to kind of remember that no matter how long we've doing this for, you can still be nervous for an interview. And so everyone can use the practice. And why? Like I said, interviews can be stressful. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're interviewing, if you're the president of the United States or if you're a janitor, it'd be really stressful. You go into a room of strangers, usually they ask you all these questions and you're on the spot. And for me, I have test anxiety. And a lot of times when it gets to the technical part, I get really stressed out. No matter how prepared I am, sometimes I get stressful. So I have to really make sure that I'm prepared as much as I can. So I know when I get to that point, I can kind of walk through that point. And the other thing is it helps you prepare, right? Like you could never have enough practice. It just you could never be too prepared for interview because you just don't know. And the last reason is just get the sillies out, right? You go to an interview and you get nervous. So having these mock interviews, going through it, usually what I'd do if we were doing a one-on-one, I'd have you send me your job description and your resume, and I'd go through it like we're having a real interview. So I'd interview just like you would have. And so that's usually how I do it. Some recommendations is to make sure that when you are preparing for these roles, that you're matching your stories up to the job description. So today we're going to do some general questions that are some common questions, but when you have an interview prepared, make sure that you are reading that job description and you're preparing these questions to make sure you're answering to that job description. So how it's going to work today, because we're, there's a lot of us here and we're going to do it. There's 3 common questions that always come up at every interview I've ever been in. And every interview, actually, I do a lot of interviewing. So these are 3 questions I always ask too. 1, is tell me about yourself, and people trip up on this. This should be the easiest question. You know you best, right? But if you don't have a prepared question, even today when I came in, I've told that story a million times, and I slipped up a little because I was just a little off, but I still was able to get through it because I knew the points I wanted to say. So if you know your story, no matter what, you're going to be ready for that out of the gate. And then another question always comes up is tell me about a project you're proud of. And again, this doesn't have to be at Salesforce. A lot of times it comes up where before I was a software engineer, I was a project manager. And so when people ask me questions about project management, I don't talk about my project management in Salesforce. I talk about the time when my brother got married. It was a destination destination wedding in Iowa. And a week before, they asked me, can we fly you out a week early to help us with this wedding? And I got there and I said, let me see your to-do list. And they didn't have a to-do list. So nothing was planned a week before a wedding with 87 people coming in. And I project managed that thing, right? Like I got 87 people on a bus every day. I had food, everything. And so I talk about that as a project manager. It doesn't have to do with Salesforce, but there's so many skills in there that can be transferable. So just remember that you have these skills. It doesn't have to be about Salesforce. And the last one is tell me about a time you failed at something. This is a really important question. It's not about you failing. It's about how you handled the fail and what you learned from it. So it's not just about, it's not about just dumping on yourself, but people want to know, we fail all the time. And so it's a really important question. It's a really good way of showing off a lot of your skills, how you're resilient, how you communicate, how you're self-reflective. So from that, I believe we're going to have some people come up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we're going to have some people who want to give this a try. Do we have any volunteers? How's this going to work?
Yes, Tracy. So we have so people have started listing the names down. So we had Christina Brown as the first person who, Vishnu Priya, is that right? Or am I skipping someone? No, Christina Brown was the first one. Who would like to go for the mock interview?
Step on up. Welcome to your interview. Please tell me about yourself.
Okay, so I'm sorry, just for this exercise, do you want to pretend like I didn't tell you about myself when I first came in?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I am Christina Brown. I am a retired educator. I worked in the school system ranging from grades 4 through 8 throughout my career in education. I started learning Salesforce after hearing about it on a Choose FI podcast. My husband and I are big fans of that particular podcast. And I really loved working in Trailhead, the gamification of the system. And that's just been my learning adventure for the last 5 months.
That's great. So I'm gonna do a little coaching. And again, I just want everyone to know here, my goal is to help. And so if I say anything, it's never to put anyone down. That was really good, Christina. I really loved how you started off with yourself. You brought Salesforce in, but I would actually pepper a little bit more about yourself. So I would have you started with yourself, Salesforce, and I would have ended on something a little bit more, right? Because I want you to be able to give me something that I could ask you about. So what you said about, your educator, I got that, but just something a little bit more personal. Because when people say, tell me about yourself, they want to know about you, not about Salesforce. That's really a true thing. So, but really good thing. So let's go to the second question, which is, tell me about a project that you're proud of.
Okay. I'm actually currently working on building out my first solo app. I've worked on some prior projects with some small groups, including Clicked. But my husband and I actually own a real estate investment property company. So I am just from the ground up kind of going through the process we've used in the past, which has been a crazy combination of texting each other, emails to the business, Post-it notes, leaving notes laying all over the kitchen counter, and just trying to streamline that process. So I'm actually really, really proud. I've only made it through 2 of the very long list of goals that I have for it, but I'm really proud of how much I've learned just getting hands-on with that process.
That was perfect, right? Because you don't have a lot of experience, but you showed that you took initiative and what you're doing. And so you kind of use this, there's a format, it's called STAR: situation, task, I can't remember what the A stands for, and result, action. So, right, you talked about what you did. You have this business, it's a situation, what you did, an action, and what your result is. So that's really good. Good job. And now, can you tell me about a time that you failed?
Sure. When we did go to virtual teaching when the pandemic first started, number one, I had never seen Zoom before. So that was just a huge technology shock, I think, to almost every educator I knew. But my other really big challenge that I faced was that they combined 2 grade levels into the classes I was responsible for. So I had curriculum from a 4th grade and a 5th grade student perspective. And I honestly had been teaching for a long time. I got really good reviews. As a teacher, I felt prepared, and I realized about 2 weeks in that I did not know enough about how to combine the different grade levels. And in education, you can't get too far behind, or you're really doing yourself and the kids a disservice. So I really had to reach out to other educators outside of my school and honestly outside of my district. Got on some message boards for teachers that I knew of, looked at some resources, had people help me with my curriculum. So that is probably the most recent bigger failure that I can think of. I'm so sorry. My dog is over here
No,
and it
that's
just completely threw me off.
no, but it
Sorry.
was perfect. No, that was perfect. Like that was really right. You could have got a bit answer, right? What'd you do? You talked
Okay.
about a problem, you took accountability for it, and then you talked about the action you did to it. So there's absolutely, you gave everything that I wanted to hear in that question, because it's not about you're failing. It's about you recognized it, you took accountability, and you took ownership of it. And then you talked about what you did to fix it and how important it was to fix it. Those are the things that you want to do. So really good job. Congratulations. And thank you for being the first one.
Okay. And just a really quick question. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
The second question you asked, since we don't have experience and I am trying to highlight the Salesforce, would you recommend with just like an opening question like that, going into any more detail about what you've done with the app, or do you just keep it pretty general if they don't?
Yeah, I wouldn't even have to say as Salesforce. Again, you have to remember that you bring, right? Anyone that's hiring you, especially if they know it's entry level, they know you don't have Salesforce, right? So if you didn't have that project, I would talk about a project that, hey, I built a database because, my family kept on, asking where we're going for dinner every night. And I was sick of, choosing. So I built a guest, pick a restaurant app, and it really saved time and money, right? Whatever it is, just pick a project you're proud of. It doesn't have to be Salesforce. Of course, if it's Salesforce, it's better because you have more to talk about it. But especially when you're newer, you don't have to talk about Salesforce. You can answer these questions without Salesforce, as long as you're covering things that are covered in the job description. Say the job description said, we want someone who's a self-starter who thinks outside the box. So that example of me saying, oh, I built this restaurant picker, right? That would show that I took initiative, that I thought out of the box, and I solved the problem. So long as you're hitting the questions, your questions are geared towards your job description. It doesn't have to be about Salesforce. It could be about any project that you're proud of. I hope that answers
Thank
the
you
question.
so much for that feedback.
Next up, we have Thomas Ho.
Hey, Thomas, welcome to your interview. Can you tell me about yourself?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Thomas Ho. I've been an automotive mechanic for 10 plus years. I'm certified at BMW and Mercedes-Benz. I really like to go to Disneyland. That's something personal. And I enjoy gardening, and I like to take things apart and find out how they work and put them back together and make people happy.
That's great, right? So let's talk about it, right? You told me about the experience you had before, because that's a transferable skill, right? A mechanic, you took things apart and you put them back together. What do we do in Salesforce? We take things apart and we put them back together. So it's definitely relatable. Disneyland, now I can tell you my Disneyland excitement, right? Oh, I live Disneyland, right? Like I'm a Disneyland freak. I live in, LA. So it's really good. It was really good. You talk about gardening. So it was a really good introduction. That what you did is you gave me an opportunity to ask you more questions. So that's really important. So that was a good job. Now tell me about a project that you're proud of.
Well, being a mechanic, you get a lot of weird issues with cars, and you have to isolate the issue and diagnose it, and then you have to take it apart and start repairing it. And there's really a lot of chances to mess up. So I've taken engines apart and put them back together, and that's a pretty big job, to be honest.
All right, that's good. That's good. But I'd be like, pick one engine. I'd say like a car came in and it was like, it was a dead engine and I had no idea, like, a Porsche, whatever it was, right? To give the details of like this Porsche
Okay.
came in and no one at our facility could figure it out. And I had to take it all apart. And I finally, wow, when I found out the oil was gone, right? Whatever the outcome was. So that star, right? Situation, task, action, result. So it's really helpful frame that you give things, but that's, you're getting there. So let's do the last one. How about a time that you failed?
I've also made mistakes because we all make mistakes. And unfortunately, working on cars, if you make a mistake, it could be catastrophic. So one time I did just, I did damage an engine, and I immediately went to my boss and told him what I did, and I owned everything about it, and I was I was sure that it would have had dire consequences, but I asked them, how do I fix it? How do I make this right? And for the next week I repaired the engine and I made it better.
That was great. I mean, that was really great, right? You had accountability. Something happened because we're all human. This is a question that comes up because we're all human. You went, you asked, you fixed it. The only thing I would just recommend is just maybe your confidence. And I know this is really nerve-wracking and get your sillies out, but just be a little bit more confident when you tell me that story, because that's a good story. So you did a really good job. Just be a little bit more confident, which is easy for me to say. It's not easy to do. I just want you to know that, but it was a really good job. Thank you for participating.
Thank you. Yeah, this is like my second time Zooming, so
No, you're doing a great
also
job.
very different.
Good job, Thomas.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Vishnu Priya.
Hello, Vishnu. Hey, Vishnu. Where are you at? Tell me about yourself. Haha.
Is she here?
Where'd she go? I actually know Vishnu. Where's Vishnu? Don't be shy.
All right. Then let's go to the next. Arvina Huff.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Arvina Huff. I am a Salesforce certified professional. I have with a background in healthcare. I have 2 Salesforce certification, business analyst and administrator. I am my background in pharmacy has helped me to problem solve and work with many teams, different clinical teams, and work with insurance company and I've talked to many patients to find a solution. In my spare time, we enjoy the outdoors, and right now we're on a challenge to do a 52 hike challenge in a year. But we're a little behind. We're on the 3rd hike right now, so we need some catching up to do.
That was great. That was really great, right? You told me your background, your Salesforce experience, and you told me something about yourself. And now I can ask you where your hikes are, like, right? And I also ask you who we is. Who's we? You said we. I'm like, who's we? No, you don't have to tell me. I'm just saying, right? That gives me, when you tell yourself this thing, you want to give the interviewee something to ask about, right? Like Disneyland or whatever, like something where I can say, oh, tell me, well, that's interesting. How do you even get into hiking, right? So you really gave me something to talk about. So that was a really good job. Can you tell me about a project that you're proud of?
Well, one project that I'm proud of is a project that's just I finished with Clicked, and we have 3 weeks to finish this project. About 2 deliverables each week, and there are 4 of us in the team. It was the biggest challenge for us is really to get everything in order and really get everybody together to at the same time to talk about it and work on it. But at the end of the day, we did not think we could finish it. But once we have everything in order, we completed the project. There were a lot of late nights, but we were proud of it.
That was good. So here's a tip for everyone. And this is the hardest thing that I had to learn. Tell me about what you did. Like, right, it's really hard for us to take credit. And so we usually say the team, we, but when you're telling this project, talk about what you did, even if it was a team. Just talk about your part in it. It's so hard to unlearn because we're so not used to like being braggy, right? Like we're so used to, we can't take credit. It's like, but this is your time to shine. So really try when you tell that story again, talk about what you did on that project. But it was a really good project to talk about. All right, so tell me about a time that you failed.
Well, there's a time that I failed when I was a pharmacist, and I had a patient who needed this insulin, and it was a weekend. And I told the caregiver that I will have it ready tomorrow. And unfortunately, I did not follow through. We had, it did not come in, and I took responsibility for it because I knew he was out of medication. So what I did I apologize, of course. And what I did was I sourced another pharmacy that had that particular medication and figure out how to transfer that medication to us, and gave the patient the option: do you want to go drive there, or I can send somebody to get it? And that way we can still make sure he has his insulin for the night. So definitely I took responsibility for it. That's the
Yeah, that's a perfect, like right, it had nothing to do with Salesforce, but I learned so much about you in that problem, right? Like it was a high stakes thing. You're like, oh my goodness, this happened. We're human, but what you did, you told me about how you solved the problem, right? So it wasn't about the fail, it's about what you did in the end. And you, right? I'm like, oh my God, this patient died. You're like, no, you got it done. And so that was a really great story to tell for that. So thank you so much for being here. You did a great job.
Thank you, Tracy.
Tracy, I have a question. So can we answer like this, that I like to try something new every day and I fail at it. I fail regularly and daily.
Well, but what would you, right? What I want with the question, what I want to know is how you handle your fail. So I want a specific instance, because I want to know what happened, why'd you fail, how you handle it, and how you fixed it.
Okay. And then I can go ahead and talk about my most recent failure.
Yeah, so it could be whatever it's time, recent failure, right? But it's like we all fail every day, but like when that story, right? When we just heard that story about the insulin, right? You're like, oh my God, that's high stakes, right? Like I was sweating during that. But then it's like, wait, I took responsibility, then I sourced it from another pharmacy. That's problem solving, right? I took accountability. Same thing with like Thomas, right? Everyone is like, I failed, teacher, right? Failed, went to people. It's how you handle the fail. It's not that you failed, it's how you handle yourself during a failure is the reason why people ask that question.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Next up, we have Rachel.
Hey, Rachel, tell me about yourself.
All right. Yeah. So I am a Salesforce certified business analyst and Salesforce admin. I am working in some nonprofits on my independent business, and I kind of joined this ecosystem from a weird turn of events. 4 years ago, I was living in China. I moved there and had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do, but I just knew that I wanted an adventure and that I wanted to help people. I'm really good at managing chaos. So I just decided, hey, why not just go live in China, bring on some international adventure. And so I did some curriculum development and automated courses over there. Really, the biggest thing that enticed me there was that I had to learn how to navigate a whole new ecosystem when I moved there. There was like the foreign language and, many custom objects, if you will, that I had no idea what they were living over there, but was there for about 3 years and then decided, I want to do a little bit with business. So I got certified as a business coach and did a lot of like discovery sessions and gap analyses, and really learned that is where my heart is it may be a little bit nerdy, but is in gap analysis. I love really working with clients and helping those people in that entrepreneurial space, but that didn't last for long. The tech bug caught me. I was actually listening to a Choose FI podcast on a training run, and they were talking about Salesforce and like talent stacker. Oh, what's that? Like talent? I have talents. Stacker? Reminds me of pancakes. I like to stack pancakes. What is this thing? So decided to sign up with them and dive into the Salesforce ecosystem. I got hooked pretty quickly and worked on a couple of volunteer projects. And now I'm doing business analysis and really looking for a space where I can bring all of those odd experiences and pieces to the table. So that my work can be a full expression of all the things that I've done, which again is kind of a mixed bag. But
That was great. That was perfect, right? You told me a story, and I will say that, Rachel, right? We came from that storytelling click thing. So you took that storytelling and you took it here, and that's exactly right. You told a story. You told me about where you started, where you went, and how you came back. And there's so much in there that I could pick out, and like I learned so much about you in that small. You really maximized the small amount of time you had. So that was a really good job. Now tell me about a project that you're proud of.
yes, so right now it is my Wonder Woman in Salesforce. It's a habit tracker that I use to keep track of my daily morning and evening routines, my marathon trainings. I'm training for a 50K right now. My workflows, sleep tracking, and also planning a wedding. So I'm really proud of it because I've had to figure out how to build out a couple different custom objects with fields and functionalities. It's implementing in a little bit of gamification as well. At this point, I'm working on the reports and dashboards to help me get a little bit more key metrics on my training and in with my calendar. So previously life was like super chaotic, but now it's like in Salesforce. And when I get a ping, it's like, I can build this thing, and also like calendar notifications and stuff bring joy.
Well, that's a very interesting project. Good job. I mean, again, right? Like you told me what you're working on. It was a very interesting way of telling me. So I got a lot out of that. So it was a really good, very good. And now tell me about a time that you failed.
Yeah. So this one is really painful. It's always the one that comes to mind for me. The first time that I was taking a trip in China, I had put it into my GPS of how long is it going to take to the airport. It said 1.3 hours. So like a good traveler, I left 2 hours earlier, and it turns out that that was based on a different train that was faster, and I took the wrong train. So of course I get to the airport, I'm scrambling. I had overpacked. I got to the airport, I had to like pantomime with airport security, like to figure out where my flight got. And I got through security 2 minutes after the gate had closed. And so, of course, I am in China. I don't speak the language. They really don't speak English that much over there. So I went to the service desk. I pulled up my translator app, and we communicated through like Siri that did all the translation for us. I have to admit, I pulled out the waterworks a little bit as well, but just basically explained, hey, this is what's happening. Can you please help me? And so they, helped me to book an airport hotel. My trip was cut a couple days short, but I have to say I've never missed a flight again. And even with bigger trips that I've organized with multiple people, I get there on time. I check if it's military time or not, and we make sure that the details are in place before a launch date.
That was great, right? Again, like that had nothing to do with Salesforce, but that told me so much about you, about, right, the fail that happens, because these things happen all the time, right? I did not listen to my GPS, and when I don't listen to my GPS, things don't go well. But you talked about in the end, and you also talk about the lessons learned, and that's an important part, right? Because not only did you fail, it happens, but what now? Like, oh, I've taken multiple trips before, now I do this. So that was a really good example of how you failed. So thank you. Good job.
Thank you. Do you have any improvement points that I can take?
No, I'd say, I would just improvement points. You really did a good job. I want to give you something, but like, I think that you really practiced, and I think that you really had the good energy. So I'd say maybe slow it down a little, because it went a little fast, but that's coming from me, who I speak really fast. So that's the only thing I'd say is like maybe slow it down just a touch, but that's the only thing I can think of.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So Tracy, there's one question in the chat.
Okay.
Can you talk about failing a Salesforce exam?
Yes, absolutely. Because right? So here's a great, right? I failed. I'll give you an example of my failure, right? So at Dreamforce, I was not going to take those free exams, right? Everyone's like, take them, but I have test anxiety, and people are like, it's free, just take it. And someone suggested that take an architect exam because they're $400, and if I fail, it's $200 exam, right? It's a 200. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I took the data architect exam. I studied for 1 hour, and I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna pass this thing. Well, and I'm like, it's just gonna be a retake. So I went in there, I took it, and I missed it by 2 questions. And I'm like, oh my God. So of course, because I only had 2 questions, I'm like, I have to take this again. And so I went and I signed up for again another one, and I studied a little harder, and I went and I took it and I passed it. And what I learned from that was, it's not about studying for the exams. For me, it was about I already had the knowledge in my head. I use it every day. So it wasn't about the studying. So I really got in my head that it was a test anxiety. And once I realized that I knew the material, I wasn't afraid to take the test. And I went back and I passed it on my second try. And I really only studied for 2 hours for that exam.
All right. So thanks for the response. The next up in line is Saida.
Yes, yeah. Hi, myself. Hi,
Tell us about yourself.
hi. I'm Saida Kadri. I'm a Salesforce certified administrator and platform developer. So I worked in a nonprofit organization recently with a Fusion Span, a company based in Washington, D.C. area. They've mostly worked on a nonprofit clients. So I worked with the documentation in Confluence and for mostly configurations in the Salesforce administrator side. And I worked in a developer side too, like creating Apex classes and SOQL SSL theories. I started my career with Capgemini as an intern. And I worked with some consulting companies to get some hands-on experience with Salesforce and to get my get trained in a Salesforce platform developer side. So that's all from my side. Yeah.
That was a great Salesforce journey, but I didn't learn anything about you, right? So it's like, tell me about yourself, right? There's part of it you want to talk about. Like when I give you my introduction to how I got into Salesforce, that's one thing, but I really want, like, if I would have said about myself, oh, I live in Santa Monica with my dog, Freddie. I'm a Swiftie, like an insane Swiftie, right? These are things that that you know about me, that you get a little bit of my personality. So I would just recommend trying to put a little bit more of you in there, because I think all what you said was great, and I learned a lot about your Salesforce journey, but I want to learn a little bit more about you for next time. Okay, great. Tell me about a project that you're proud of.
In Fusion Span, I worked with the building a Fundiva application for nonprofit clients, and I worked with a volunteer project in Talent Stack, where I got the opportunity to build the reports and configurations in Salesforce. And in Fusion Span, working in a nonprofit clients, I worked with building reports, joint reports, and working in automations like flows and process builders. So that's it.
Okay, so just some feedback would be, take one of those and talk about what you did. Like, let's take the automation, right? That you had to take automation, that you had to take donors that, had reoccurring, every time they recurred and it was over $50,000, you had to like send out an email, whatever that one thing is. So just take one of those things and say what you're proud of. So you give a lot of information, but you didn't give a lot of details. So you really want to make sure that you're just giving details about one little thing. Does that make sense?
Yes, correct.
Okay, great. So now tell me about a time that you failed.
Yes, I fail in life many times. So, but one thing is for sure, I don't repeat my mistakes. So, like recently, I don't want to disclose. Recently, I got laid off after 10 days after hiring. So that was the one failure, but I got the thing that we should never settle anything less. Especially I came from a reserved background from India. So in future also I'll never settle. First, we need the respect, no matter if you are junior or senior. So that the mistake I learned recently. So yeah, so.
Thank you for that, but I'll tell you that getting laid off is not a failure, right? No, like it's not a failure at all. We all get. Everyone's been laid off. So I'd pick something. You probably didn't have time to think about it. So this is really good, right? This is why we had the mock interviews. So I'd really go back in your life and find a time and talk about it, because the layoff is just not. I would not account that as a failure. You did nothing wrong, and so I don't want you to think that's a failure. And I know why you feel it's a failure, but it's not. I just wanted to validate that for you. So just, I think that just do a little more practice and come up. Now you have these questions and kind of come up with some details. And so when you're ready to do it again, you'll be ready, because these questions will come up in some way, shape or form in your interviews. But thank you for participating.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next in line, Krishna Veni.
Yeah, hi, I'm Krishnaveni, and my background is Master in Computer Applications. And I have a career break due to my personal reasons. And then I started with QA automation, but then it didn't work out for me because they were asking a lot of hands-on experience and you know this or that. And you learn about Git, they were asking about, do you know Jira, all those things. So there are a lot of technology I wanted to know. Then I was like thinking what else I can do. So then I started my career as a teacher again, where I was like a college professor back in India. So I started to teach kids coding classes. So when I'm doing that, I came to know about Salesforce. And then I thought, oh, okay, why not give a try with the Salesforce? So I started to like with the trailhead as I was like going on. So I was able to achieve something. So I was so happy about that. And then I worked as a freelancer in Mom Relaunch. And then I got an opportunity with a nonprofit called Stadia. And after that, I also got a full-time job opportunity in a startup company. And then I was so happy about that. And I was able to achieve a lot of things. Like even though I was admin in the current job, I was able to do some little bit of coding where I'm so happy that I'm able to come up again back to where I started. So I'm happy about that.
That was really good, but I'll just give some feedback. One, you kind of started off with what you couldn't do, and so you kind of spin that, like, right, all that stuff, like you're just finding yourself, like you're like, oh, I couldn't do that. You were finding yourself. And another thing I'd like to say is, whatever your personal reasons for that gap is, try to find a way to include it, because gaps come up. I had a gap. I didn't work for many years because I had to take care of my mom. But what I did when that gap comes up, wow, I had to organize medical, like all her medical appointments. I had to like care for her. So I used all the things that I did with my mom for those years that I didn't work. I looked at the job description and I figured out all the things in that job description that fit in. So whatever it is, we all have reasons. If there's some way that you can kind of, because it's going to show up on your resume and people are probably going to, so try to find a way to include that in your story and be proud of it. Like, you know, my mom got sick. I didn't work for years because I had to take care of my mom, right? Didn't mean that it wasn't working. I was just using my skills a different way.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
got it.
So now tell me about a project that you're proud of.
The project I'm proud of is like previously where I mentioned that a Mom Relaunch and the nonprofit organization. I had a lot of actually co-worker where all are Salesforce admins. So I had a team, even though I was like failing, I was having some doubt on me. Everyone was around me and they were like pulling me up. But here in this current job, I'm the only one admin. I have to make a decision and I have to do everything on my own. So at first few months, I was like really struggling and trying to get into the place where I am. But then after a few days, I got very comfortable and was able to make a decision and work alone, and then able to pursue in a successful way. Yeah. So
Right.
like a project, I would say is like
Yeah.
the one particular thing is like a lot of automations. So where I need to send an email alert whenever a deal is closed or a deal is lost, I need to send an automation every time. Or if the stage is moving backward, I need to notify the managers, sales reps, managers. So all those things are like, I'm very proud of that automation. So it was at the beginning, it was a little struggle for me, but then later on, I figured out a way and I was able to achieve everything through flow. And everyone was like able to was happy because they are getting all the information in time and they never miss it. So they were happy about that.
All right,
So
that's a
that
really
was,
good. Yeah, that was good. So I just, the suggestion is, right, just focus on that part. Again, you kind of went the negative, right? You're like, oh, I didn't know how to do things. So this is an interview. You're selling yourself, so you have to get some self-confidence, and it's not easy. Again, easy for me to say, not easy to do. So just pick that one part. Hey, I had to figure out these automations, and I figured out how to get these deals to move, and I never got the information. Do that star, right? The situation, the task, the action, result, and really try to focus on that and not all the other, because there's a lot of noise in there, and I understand we get nervous, and that's what this here to get rid of it. So just kind of just practice just taking that one thing, the automation, and talk
Okay.
about that.
Okay, yeah, sure,
All
I'll
right.
do that.
All right, and now tell me about the time you failed.
The failure is a lot of things I did. I would take a particular thing as like the Salesforce exam, right? So first time when I'm preparing the exam, I was able to guide everyone. Since I have a teaching experience, I was able to guide everyone, and I was like able to push everyone, and then they were all cleared their exams. And then when it came to my time, I was like a bit nervous. I was making all sort of mistake. I was so confused. Not one time, I failed twice in Salesforce exam. And third time, I was like, no, I can do it. I was bringing my confidence to myself. And then I was like trying, I can do this. When I'm able to help others, I can achieve this. And then third time, I cleared with most of the report and dashboard with 100% and security with 100%. And few of the topics, other topics like with 100%. I was so happy when I cleared that exam. So
That's a really great fail, right? Because what I heard from you, you're like, wait, I can help everyone else. You're like, what the heck happened? And you're like, what? And you had to take that you looked at yourself, what am I doing wrong? And you built your confidence up. So that was a really good example of a failure. So good job. Thank you for participating.
yeah, thank you.
Next up, we have Ramya.
Hi, Tracy.
All right.
Yeah. So
Tell me about yourself.
Yeah. I started my career as a quality assurance tester back in India. I have 3 years of experience in that. After that, I was a stay-at-home mom for 9 years. I started my Salesforce journey last year. I studied myself on Trailhead, and I passed my admin certification. I like to do sewing. So I learned with one of my friends. She used to teach us. And yeah, I like to cook, especially like baking things. It's all about me.
That's really good, right? You told me like a lot of little things I need to know, right? And that the stay-at-home mom thing is really important because to me, that tells me a lot about you, that you're a returning mom, but you also have this skill set that moms have this skill set that like freaking scheduling and having to like handle chaos. So I think I'm really glad that you included that because sometimes people are afraid to include that. So that's a really good job. Tell me about a project that you are proud of.
I did a volunteering project as part of Talent Stacker program. In that, I created a flow. During that time, flows are very new to me. I just went through 1 or 2 batches in that. The flow should update a custom field whenever an email is sent to a lead or a contact. Like every time an email is sent, it should keep on increasing that number field. So I failed I couldn't able to do that, but with the help of one of the trailblazer, I can able to achieve that part, and I'm very proud of building that flow.
Yeah, that was really good, right? Use the star, and I really did like the fact that you said that you had trouble with it and you reached out for help. Because it doesn't mean being part of a project doesn't mean you have to do it all yourself, right? And I talked about the we part, but you didn't say like you didn't give someone else credit. You gave yourself credit for going out there and asking for help. So I just want to be like that was a nuance, right? You're like, hey, I was having trouble. I reached out to the community, which means that you have a skill set that you're like, hey, I'm not going to give up. So that was a really good example. And now tell me about a time that you failed.
I felt like I said earlier, I learned sewing. So I thought like I started doing alterations, a kind of like a home business. So my first customer was like I made a mistake in ordering that dress, and everything is messed up. And then I reached out to my friend. She is the one who taught me, but she said since they don't know stitching like sewing, you can just say like it's all, that's it. You can just, if you talk, they'll be okay with what you have done. but I don't want to do that since they are my first customer. I just, I bought a new zipper for that dress and then I stitched it and gave them back. That is my failure thing.
That's really good because like what you did, right? You told me a situation. You also told me that someone gave you a way out, but you're like, hey, I have integrity. And that told me a lot about you, right? You're like, wait, it's my first, I don't want to do that. So you had a way out, but you didn't take it. So that was a really good example of a failure. So thank you for participating. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have Harita.
Hi.
Hello, tell me about yourself, please.
Hi, this is Harita. I really respect and value relationships and people around me. I'm a very goal-oriented person. I have goals. I put them down in a journal and I visit them regularly. This gives me strength and impetus to work on it more and more. I'm very enthusiastic. I document whatever, even from childhood, I used to document things nicely. Even in my classes, when my teachers used to teach something, I maintain running notes. And when working, I'm working as an administrator in a startup. Here also, it helps me to document whatever the implementations I'm making, and for future reference and for my reference too.
That's really cool. I mean, I would say the only thing, I mean, I like the fact that you talked about your documenting since childhood. So that told me like, right, I always tell people like, I was born a problem solver, right? I always talk about in my childhood, how I problem solved. I would just recommend maybe doing something a little bit like one little personal thing about you that you like, just so we can connect, right? You said relationships, and relationships are based on relating. So just something, anything that I can like grab onto, I'm like, hey, whatever, it's a sports team. I mean, I don't like sports, but you know what I mean? A TV show, anything that's just something a little personal, but everything was really good. So thank you for that. Tell me about a project that you're proud of.
Yeah, recently I implemented a Salesforce a form. Some users are unable to see it. I worked for almost half a day, but I couldn't implement it. Means the users are still unable to see some fields. Then I did a lot of research in Trailhead, not only in Trailhead, but also help.salesforce. There I came to know because the two users, the fields weren't included in the profile. That's why they were able to see it. Then I checked them, and then they were able to see. It was a very proud moment for me because I could, with the help of documentation, like Trailhead has very good help.salesforce.com. It has very good documentation, because of which I'm able to solve it. Yeah.
That's a perfect example, right? Use a star, right? Your situation, you took a task, you had an action and result. And I really like, again, I learned that you're a problem solver because they're like, hey, I couldn't do this, but I went to the documentation. So that told me a lot about you. So that was a really good example. How about a time that you failed?
Failure is regarding achieving the milestones. Once I was unable to achieve the milestones, each time it was 2 weeks short. Then I started planning nicely. So I had this backup time, so that even if I'm unable to achieve this by this time, well and good. But if not, I have backup time where I can go revisit and then finish it on time. See, giving myself some space so that if it worked for the team also. I have 2 co-workers. Working together also, it helped.
That was pretty good. I would just get a little bit more details on it. I mean, I like what you're going with it, but just maybe a little bit more details. But it was a really good job. So yeah, thank you for participating. Oh, I lost the window. All right, where'd everyone go? There you go. All right, who's next?
Louis Lee.
Hi, Tracy. My name is Louise Lee, and a little bit about me. So I worked at UC Berkeley for 17 years as an event planner and fundraiser, and then wanted a change, so worked in some startups. And then COVID hit, and decided to go to go to a boot camp to learn FSF coding. And now I'm grading for the same company that I learned those skills. And back when I was in Berkeley, I started working in Salesforce. A little bit more about me. I am a mother of 2 kids that both have launched off in college. And so it's just me and my 2 German Shepherds home alone while my husband's working and I'm working remotely.
Nice. Go Bears, right? And I can say go Bears, right? Because you gave me some information. That was really good. I would just say just practice a little bit more. I mean, I saw that you're doing your Toastmaster. I think that you have a really good story. It's really interesting. Just a little bit more practice, just a little bit more smoother. But again, it was a really good job. So tell me
Okay.
about a project that you're proud of.
One project I'm really proud of is that when I'm a senior grader with 2U edX, and when FinTech started getting exciting, like financial technology got exciting and people were starting new boot camps about 1.5 years ago, I was asked by my supervisor if I wanted to tackle the pilot program. I didn't know Python, which is the #1 program that you use for financial technology. And I was very nervous, but I did it. And I had a great team around me, and I actually made it through the whole cohort. And now I'm a senior grader and I grade for that class as well. So that's something I'm really proud of.
That's really good. That was a perfect example. Really good, right? You had a story. You told me a story. I loved it. All right. Tell me how you failed though.
So I failed one time miserably when I was in Berkeley. I was one of the things I was responsible for was managing interviews for law students. So I was managing hundreds and thousands of interviews and algorithm to create interviews. And I accidentally deleted like 80% of the interviews. And, you know, through a mistake on the wasn't an app then, the standalone computer. So, and it was the middle of the night, right? So I was working late, trying to get it done, and made a mistake and couldn't undo it. So it took me a few minutes to gather myself and take a deep breath and realize that, you know, I did what I did and I've got to fix it. Obviously, I contacted my supervisors and contacted the company that I've been working with really closely to actually develop the entire program. And eventually we ended up getting most of it back. And I just had to own up to it. And, you know, honesty is important. So it worked out, and I will never, ever, ever do that again.
I think that's it was such a good story because like I feel like everyone could relate to that. Like I've done it before, and it's like working late at night. That's the first thing, like, oh, working late at night, don't do it. And so I really liked that you talked about it, and you talked about it was a crazy failure, like how crazy it was, and how you're like, I'll never do it again. So it's a really good job. I really enjoyed that. Thank you for participating.
Thank you. So just one quick question. I
Yeah,
know you're running out of time,
It's
but
okay.
I just wanted to say that I have been interviewing for jobs for like 1 year, and I have interviewed for a lot of jobs, and I have gotten so many rejections. So maybe it is, I think Toastmasters is helping a little bit, but maybe it is polishing up on what I say, because I used to think, like you said, I used to think I was the best interviewer. Like there's no job I couldn't get.
Yeah.
And now my confidence is in the toilet.
It's confidence. It's a hard thing, right? It's a chicken and the egg thing, right? Like, how do you get confidence without, you know? And so I think that whenever I don't get a job, sometimes I tell people I just do interviews for practice. So sometimes you have to practice. So maybe just start taking interviews. You know, you don't want the job, just start interviewing, and then you're just, you know, when you don't have, when it's not that high risk, right? It's like a lower risk thing. So you're like, hey, if I get this job, great. If I don't, I'm out. I'm here for practice. So I recommend just practicing taking interviews, and that will just build up your confidence.
That's great. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was excellent. Next up is Emilu.
Right.
Sorry if I mispronounced your name.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Tracy. Hope you're doing good. So, yeah. So myself, Amlu, I'm from India. So as soon as we came from India to USA, so, you know, after I got my work permit, I started my career as a preschool teacher. So like I used to work around like 5 to 6 years age group of the kids. So I implemented lessons in accordance with the creative curriculum. Like I supervised around in my classroom, there are like 13 to 14 children out there. So with the help of another teacher. So I encouraged like social skill development through one-on-one activities and small group activities in addition. Currently, like, after COVID, so I got, I got conceived with my second kid. So I took a break. And then unfortunately, we moved back to the Seattle. Give me a second. Sorry, my son, he just came off suddenly. So
I love it. I love it when kids and dogs show up and cats. So please, more the merrier.
okay, so actually, I used to work in California as a preschool teacher, but after coming to Seattle, so it's completely different because the early childhood education units, whatever I did in California, it doesn't work here. So now I'm thinking to come to the IT field. So I joined one consultancy and I learned Salesforce admin, and I'm done with my Salesforce admin certification also. Currently, I'm seeking an opportunity. So yeah, this is myself.
All right. Well, thank you. I would just say one thing is I would just shorten it. It was a little long, and I just kind of pick out the parts, right? The whole early education and having to move, that was a challenge. So I would keep that in, but I would just kind of condense that. And then also, you didn't really tell me anything personal about yourself, right? I keep on saying that. I need to know something personal because I need to say like, right, go Bears or like some Disneyland, something that I can connect with you because it's a connection thing. So a lot of times with these interviews, it's not just about what you know, it's about how you get along with the people, right? We're all human. We all want to work with people, and sometimes it's really hard to come across. So when you tell us something about yourself, it's just a little bit of a nugget that I'm like, hey, I can grab onto and ask you something further on. So that's why I'm really encouraging you to add a little bit about yourself in these things. But go ahead and tell me about a project that you're proud of.
Yeah, sure. So like, yeah, I'm proud about like, as I am working as a teacher before, so like the delivery and sharing of my knowledge to the young kids, what makes me feel proud as a teacher, and the feeling of accomplishment every time my students get to or share knowledge, like whatever I'm sharing with them. So I consider teaching a perfect chance of exchanging experience through different patterns, teacher to students and students to teachers. So I'm more proud about that. And yeah.
Yeah, that's, it's interesting, but I'd give it a little bit like, right, kind of do that star where you have a situation, a task, an action, and a result. Just try to take that story and just try to condense it into something that is really easily to identify. Mm-hmm. But, you're doing a good job. And so tell me about a time that you failed.
No, yeah. So yeah, there is a like situation in my school. So I used to attend parent-teachers meeting. One day I was communicating with one parent, like regarding his child performance in academics as well as other activities. But all of a sudden I got to know that I'm talking with different parent. I'm talking about one child, but the parent is for another child. So all of a sudden I got realized, oh, okay, so somehow I managed, and so all of a sudden, yeah, that's the one thing. And when I'm trying to done my Salesforce admin certification, so I failed my first time because it's like very tough situation for me because I have a small baby, so I couldn't prepare well for the exam. And then again, with my husband's help, I studied well for the second trial. So then I got my certificate in second time. So those are the two things.
All right, like I think that's good, but I would say one thing. I'd stick to one, pick one, and then right, the idea with the one, I think it was really interesting with the mixing up the children, but just say how you fixed it the next time. I'd use that one. That's a really good one. But I did want to point out one thing before we go on, and this is really an interesting observation. We all find it really easy to talk about something we failed, but when I ask you to tell me about something you're proud of, you have a hard time because we're so conditioned to think about our failures and not about how to bring ourselves up. So I just want to point that out, that everyone has that thing. We all have something we're proud of. It's really easy to say what we failed at. So just start thinking about what I do. Honestly, I forget sometimes of my accomplishment. Even though I've done such great things, I have a little list, And I know it might sound embarrassing, but sometimes I have to write down a list of all my accomplishments. So when I get in that mode of like, oh, I'm a failure, whatever, I look at all the things that you did. So before I go in an interview, I honestly bring out my list of accomplishments to build myself up. And I have to do that because like I can forget, but I've done a lot of cool things and I have to remember. So maybe you guys just write down really cool things about yourself. So when you get into that interview, you have this really pepped up self, pep talk for yourself. So I just wanted to share that. All right, who is next?
Thank you.
Tracy, there's one question or kind of
Yes.
thought in the chat. How to relax your nerves? Something you can use something to relax your nerves?
Yes. So, right, I get nervous. I actually have anxiety. I have high anxiety, which is different than normal anxiety. So what I do is when I'm in situations, if I know I have something that I have in my hand that people can't, if I'm on Zoom, right? If I'm in person, the water thing is good. And another thing is just acknowledging, right? If you just acknowledge, hey, I'm a little nervous right now, just taking the power away from it. We all get nervous. And I don't think anyone expects you not to be nervous. Like, you wouldn't be normal if you weren't nervous, but it was when it gets the best of you. So I just take a moment. Hey, can I have a moment? If I feel I'm getting off track, I say, can I have a pause? And it's really hard to do. But when I catch myself going, I just say, can I just have a pause, reset? And that's totally okay. And that tells people, right, that you're self-aware, that you're on track, and that you're just nervous. And it's totally okay to be nervous. But you just can't let the nerves get you. You have to be louder. Your voice has to be louder than that voice that's telling you you're nervous.
Yeah, sometimes I stand up and talk. Standing up makes me sound more confident.
Whatever it is, right? Like I have a certain outfit that I wear. There's certain socks. I know it sounds silly, but there's certain things you have to do that you have to just get yourself prepared for, and whatever works for you. That everyone gets nervous. I don't think there's anyone that's not nervous. I think it's very natural. But again, you have to make sure that your nervousness doesn't outweigh all your other part. You can't let it get the best of you.
Absolutely. So next up, we have Honey Balan.
Right. Where are you at, honey?
Cold feet? Not sure. So John Sim.
Oh, my friend John, come on up.
Hello.
Hey, John,
Hello.
how are you?
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Tell me about yourself.
Okay, my name is John Sim, and I'm the youngest of the 5 children. And I'm currently a Salesforce certified professional with 5X certified. But before becoming a Salesforce, I was an accountant working in a financial services firm, thinking, oh, accounting is much routine. I want to work on some technology product. So, and then at that time, they were implementing ERP software. So I say, I want to be part of it. So little did I know that I was in that ERP field like more than 10 years, working in banks, working in education government, and also working in city government, where I know the ins and out of the software, but it comes to a point where there was no future because it's all client server and everyone is on cloud services. So I wanted to learn something new, and it comes at a time where they were downsizing, laying off people. So I decided to pursue new technology, and Salesforce was on the way. So and to me, I said, oh, I need to try Trailhead before to see I like it or not. And I got hooked up. So I said, oh, I need to know more about it. And for me, yeah, I study actually on my own, and it takes me twice to get the admin cert. And then after the admin cert, I also have issue getting a job, but I started volunteering for some of the Salesforce nonprofit event where I get to learn Salesforce, and now I'm actually learning a lot about requirements and facility session, but I'm still not comfortable at the point where I can, just like interviewing, I'm still trying to build myself up to be more confident. And actually, before even Salesforce, I'm an immigrant from Asian country, and I have to go to the army to serve for like 2 years. So in the army, it was pretty strict. If you don't if you stand on one leg, the officer will say, go do 10 for me. So it was like, I better be obey the, if not, I'll get a lot of like punishment in different ways. So it create a discipline in learning Salesforce and to be resilient, try to find my way to the question. So it's resilient and problem solving to get things done.
All right, John. Well, I just like to say thank you, and I've seen you on your journey, and you've come a long way. But here's some, like, you did a really good job. Here's some tips for you. I would just condense the story a little. I think you gave me a lot of really good information. I would definitely leave out the part where you don't feel confident now. Like, I think that we don't need to know that. You just you've learned it, you've done it, and I again, I've seen you in the beginning, and you've come a long way. And you're doing a great job. So I just wanted to commend you from a personal perspective. Can you tell me about a project that you have that you're proud of?
Oh yeah, the one of the project that I'm proud of is during the time where I'm learning Salesforce, there was an initiative for the Salesforce nonprofit open commons where they have different areas of need. So I participate in different area, but one area that I'm proud of is the videography documentary on a nonprofit donations, where I get to work on the script for creating a video script, and then I have to learn about donations like manual entry, recurring, and learning at the same time as writing the script. And then while writing the script, there was a technical manager that came to review my work, and she said, "Oh yeah, in when writing a script, you can write it in the first person. You have to write it in the third person, just like Trailhead." So I actually learned a lot. Say, writing a script for Trailhead or for video code is very different. And I got that script running, and then in the subsequent iteration, I choose the same videography to continue the script, and I was able to write a lot of script, and then there were new member in the group that I can transfer my knowledge to new people, say this is how we write the script. So I was happy that I could transfer the knowledge now that all the script are completed, and it's the how-to series is completed in the YouTube. I was proud to be part of the member for the Salesforce nonprofit how-to series on donations.
Again, that was a really good example. I would just try to consolidate it a little bit. It was just a little long, but I loved it. It's a really good thing to be proud of. Again, I think you just have to practice it, but I think that was a really good example. It was really clear what you did. So you definitely used a star on that. So good job. How about a time that you failed?
Yeah, there was a situation when I worked in the city government on an ERP project, and then one of the finance auditor, he was using the ERP software, and he wanted to refresh UAT sandbox, so he created request. So I'm assigned to that request to create a refresh on the sandbox. And I went in and created sandbox to be assigned to the DBA. And then I put all the instruction on the form, just leveraging the form notification to notify the DBA that the database need to be refreshed. And then just a few days before the refresh happened, the customer have a change request, say, "Oh, before building this, I want you to back up the data, and then once you refresh, don't import the data back. I want to test it out, and then once the the finance user says okay to move the data back, then he will give me the instruction to notify the database administrator to refresh the database. So, and I put the changes in the request form and then just hit save, thinking that the notification on the change request would notify the DBA. But on the other end, later I found out the DBA didn't get the notice on the change. And during the time when it was refreshed, the DBA backed up the data, refreshed the database, and loaded the data back. And then when I got notified for the situation, I worked with the user and found out that, oh, that's not what we wanted. So I was actually so the failure is like I shouldn't be relying on the form notification. I should have made an extra step to ping the DBA, say, did you get the new changes? The client make a last minute changes. I was just even calling just to make sure, but I didn't. So yeah, it was a failure on my part, and we have to do some manual workaround. So the client asked for a subsequent refresh on the following week or month. And then this time I learned my mistake. So when the refresh come, besides using the notification on the request form, I actually ping and notify the DBA, say, we need to do this. Are you clear on what you need to do? And she said, yeah, now I'm very clear. So now I have verbal communication and agreement on what needs to be done so that the past mistake doesn't happen again.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great problem. Again, I'll just condense it. Like it went on a little long. And so that's the only thing, right, is really good. Because the thing for me, I was on the edge of my seat. I knew, right, when you're like the refresh and I was like, oh my God, like I was sweating for you. So I would just get to the information a little faster. It's a really good story, but just trying to condense it. But really good job. Thanks, John, for participating.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's just have a quick shot of our meeting. So everyone, can you open the screen for a few seconds, make a power pose? What's your power pose? As there was something in the chat that when you make a power pose, you're more confident. Right. I need to take a screenshot. So everybody please do it. Right. I have to take for the next screen. Can you do one more time? Open your pose, power pose. Excellent. Thank you. So also just we have only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more people left. And since it takes a lot of courage to come on the stage and do this practice, I'm going to be sending 3 people some gifts. So we'll do the wheel of names and I'll send something to whoever's lucky to win the wheel of names, right? So we have Erica Presley. Erica Presley is next. Is she there?
Come out wherever you are.
No? Okay. We have Matt Marker.
All right, Matt.
Hi, Tracy.
Tell me about yourself.
As far as business goes, I come from a small business. My father and I started a business in molecular diagnostic testing reagents. And it was a fun business where I did all aspects of the business, from accounting to design engineering. That's pretty much where I really had a passion for being able to get an idea and bringing it to life, really to iterate through things. I'm also a ski instructor, and I've been doing that for 11 years. I really like things that I enjoy doing. I really like digging into and going deeper on them. So I'm a level 2 certified ski instructor. Got my associate's certificate for Salesforce, and I'm working on my business administration or Salesforce administrator and certificate too.
That was really good. Like, right, you told me I learned a lot about you in a short amount of time, right? You're a business owner, you dig in, you do it, you're also a ski instructor, and then you're like, I'm also working on this stuff. So it was a really good arc. So it was really, really good. Yeah, I think just practice a little bit more. That's the only thing I'd say, but it was really, the information was really good. All right, Matt, tell me about a project that you're proud of.
I'm proud of a project we did in the business, which was to take a Group B strep assay from the idea to submission to the FDA. A lot of iteration through that, from every reagent to the packaging to getting to work with the people and bringing that test to the clinical trials and being able to interact with those lab technicians and doctors to be able to have them run the assay for us. So I was very proud of that.
That's pretty cool. I didn't understand any of it, but it was pretty cool. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't understand. I'm just teasing you. How about a time that you failed?
So the failure would be there was a decision on the third trial and there was due to situation of lack of funding, and there was a decision to be made, and we made a change in the third trial. And I didn't stick to my guns when I knew that change was not really, shouldn't have been an option, but I didn't have the final decision on that. So therefore, it came to that third trial, and the FDA wasn't going to accept it. So now I'm taking that and I've pivoted. I really like the idea of working with people, making their lives more efficient and effective. It's kind of been an undercursor to my whole life, even as a ski instructor too. So to be able to take that into Salesforce, and I'm pivoting into that. I really enjoyed all of my programming I've done in the past, also with some of the other items we designed in our business. So.
All right, it's cool. I would just be really like, right. You told me a lot of information. I think giving more details about how that failure comes around. You're like, I didn't stick to my guns. That's such a huge, thing for me, right? But you're like, okay, next time this is what you kind of did. So kind of just kind of encapsulate that one little thing that happened. You're like, oh, third round, right? Didn't stick to my guns. Should have done it. Didn't do it. Next time I did it. I think that'd be really good. So thank you for participating. Good job.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ryan Clark.
Rain, just Rain.
Rain.
I'm sorry,
Hi.
Rain.
That's okay.
Tell me about yourself, Rain.
I've been called everything from Ryan to Rainy to a lot of different names, and I will honestly answer to any of them. That is a little about me, but more importantly, I was a copy editor for about 15 years. I have kind of, I got to a point with that where I needed something new, and I searched for a while, and I went back to old things I knew, which was customer service, and realized at my age it was definitely not for me. I cannot do repetitive people tasks, and sort of stumbled across Salesforce and suddenly discovered that here's this thing in my life that I absolutely excel at. And for once in my life, figured out that, hey, it is okay to be proud of myself. And it has become something that I am very proud of.
That was a great, you told me so much, including how when your name was mispronounced, that you went to, I mean, that was absolutely that happens all the time. So that was a really good introduction. I learned so much about you. So thank you. That was a really good job. Now tell me about a project that you're proud of.
Yeah, so I kind of got thrown in the deep end after I was certified. I currently work for a very small organization who does Salesforce training for professionals with disabilities. And I went through that process, and that was where already dumping me in the deep end before I even was certified, but right after certification hired me and I came into the org, which was at the time a fairly small and very neglected Salesforce org. And I learned that team members were putting a lot into Salesforce manually and things that could be done and that I later automated in a way that literally they can go through 40 records in 3 seconds. They used to have to do by hand, and each one would take, an hour overall. And I am very proud of increasing not just individual people's efficiency, but the entire organization as a whole to allow the massive growth that we've had in the last year and a half.
That was a great example, right? You told me a problem and you quantified it. You're like, people like, I've done that too, where you're like, I went for people 75% of the time data entry to like 10%. Like that's to qualify it. You had the situation, the task, the action, and the result, and that was a really good job. So congratulations. Now tell me about the time that you failed.
Okay, so this was yesterday. I don't know if you have heard of FlowFest. FlowFest is an event put on by O'Hanley and Salesforce Ben with some assistance from Trailhead as well. And I just kind of on an impulse a few weeks ago signed up to compete thinking, okay, this will be fun if nothing else. And was chosen as one of the 200 to actually compete. I did not make it through the first flow. My flow skills are pretty good, but these are expert level and I am not there yet, admittedly. And out of that, I went, you know what? I have learned so much about this specific flow that stumped me, that I can take this knowledge now and turn it into being able to do not only that, but better. And I'm going to come back every time I get the opportunity and continue to compete until I'm one of those 4 that they pit against one another live, which is terrifying, but
again, that was that was a perfect fail, right? Like,
yeah,
you told me so much in the end, right? You're like, I learned so much about you in that fail. Like, first of all, that's amazing to do that because I'm a Flownatic, and I was like, they asked me to enter that. I'm like, heck no, I'm not going to enter that contest. So good for you. That was a really good job. I mean, really, really well done. So thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rain.
Yep.
I loved it that you even, put your hat in for that fairy contest. And it was so lovely.
It was terrifying. Yeah.
It was lovely. I mean, they had build it live, such a challenging situation. That's amazing. Daniel Kinball.
Yes, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Very low. I don't know if that's your voice or your speakers.
Let me turn up my speakers.
There we go.
Okay, is that better?
Much better.
Okay. All right.
All right. Tell me about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a mom of 3. That's usually the first thing I think of when someone asks me that question. I like to read and write creatively. I'm in a career pivot at the moment, coming into the ecosystem from a sales development representative position where I was making a bunch of cold calls. And I wasn't very happy with that career, but I just found myself continuing down that trajectory. And so things that I'm into just would be, hiking, live music, food, like cooking, hangouts with friends. I'm a social introvert, I guess you might say. That's all I can think of right now.
That's good. I mean, you made some a lot of stuff. I would just say, right, just practice a little bit, your confidence, because you're just kind of like, I think, and you're like, no, you know who you are. And I love the fact that you're like, I'm a mom of 3. That tells me so much. And I love that you said that you're a social, introvert. Like you gave me a lot to work with. I'll just practice it and just be a little more confident because it's you. No one else knows you but you.
Thank you.
All
That's
right.
great advice.
Yeah. So tell me about a project that you're proud of.
Ooh, yeah. So at my last company, I created an outreach cadence that they're still using. And I'm proud of it because they had literally almost 100 different cadences that the sales development reps could choose to utilize. And mine was the most talked about, had the best results. The response rate was off the charts higher than any of the others. So they are still using it today. I'm pretty proud of that. It included a mixture of, I had to create it, just from out of my head. It was putting in the sales loft, the cadence, which included emails, phone calls, video outreach, and just planning it out really well and writing the scripts for the emails. So
that was a great job. It was a perfect project. I learned about you and like you told me the star. So it was a really good job. How about a time that you failed?
Ooh, so a time that I failed. Can I get just 1 second?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we had at one of my prior SDR roles, it was actually the first company I worked at where I had this title, my first sales role. We were doing a mock cold calling amongst the team. I was on a pretty big team and I was the only female on the team. So I felt a little bit, actually a lot of it out of my league. And I felt pretty, stupid or inexperienced. And I failed miserably at that. It was like, and I got called out for it, like, Danielle, that just sucked. And so I was like, all right. Yeah, I know that sucked terribly, but so I failed because I could not really complete that session. It was bad. So I didn't learn from like the mock call experience there, but how I kind of I guess I failed forward because I volunteered to do it again the next time. And that time it was much better. So I did learn from the experience because I was able to actually have more of I practiced for it that time and I was just more prepared and it went much better.
That's a really good job. First of all, I want to commend you for taking kind of a minute because absolutely right. You just need a minute to do your thoughts. Absolutely. That was a really good story. I love that you said you failed forward because you volunteered. You're like, hey, I failed, but I didn't let that send me back. I just went forward again. And that told me a lot. So really good job. Really good job. Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love the fail forward word. And do you think, Tracy, that talking about technology things or relating it somehow to technology when you're applying for a technology job, even if you're a housekeeper or you're doing tailoring or something, but somehow relating it to technology would help you secure a job?
It depends on the job. So again, this was a generic one. So I would always try whatever job I'm applying for. I take the job description and I try to put something from that job description in that part, right? So if it's technology, whatever. So right now we're just doing generic, people were just practicing, but I always tailor that tell me about myself is about myself, but I put in things that are in the job description that I'm hitting without having it's not like a 1-for-1. It's kind of, I'm sprinkling that in there so they get to know who I am, but in the context of the job. So
yes,
that's how I do it. But for this one, we didn't have a job. So I think everyone did a great job. I don't necessarily need technology. There's so much stuff in that I can ask questions. See, the thing about the tell me about yourself is for me to ask you more questions. I want to be left with things that I'm intrigued about. And then I can ask you how that applies to technology. So it's really giving me, the interviewee, a chance to get to know you, to pull out more questions. That's the whole tell me about yourself, like, reason why people ask that. They really want to ask you more questions.
Sure. Yeah, I like the part that you have to take the words from the description and then put it in your answers as well. Hema, next up.
All right, Hema, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hema, and I'm kind of like a transitioning teacher. And I have one daughter, and I used to be a preschool teacher for almost 5 years. And I do have like a site supervisor permit from California. Like after COVID, I thought like it is not kind like my cup of tea. So I thought of like transitioning. And now I'm kind of like, as a teacher, I always used to kind of like tell the kids like we used to kind of like engage a lot, but like now with Salesforce, I'm getting engaged a lot. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's cool.
That's about me.
That's cool. I like that you told me a lot. I would just do one thing, one personal thing. You learn a lot, but just a little personal thing, right? Something like, right, I can connect with, but that was really good, very succinct. Tell me about a project that you're proud of.
Actually, like I don't have like any kind of like experience, like a work experience, but like I used to kind of like go for like a super bad Saturdays or super bad Sundays, these type of events. And there I kind of like found out that like a trailblazer, they kind of like take people from the community to do the testing for them. So I kind of like enroll for that, and I have done like testing for a couple of badges, super badges. Yeah,
That's
I'm proud
cool.
of that.
That's really good. That's really good, right? I think that was really good. You're like, I don't have a lot of work experience, but the fact that you are a part of the credential team, right, doing the testing, that's a project in itself. So that told me a lot. So that was a really good example. So good job. Now tell me about a time that you failed.
Like I fail every day when I'm doing the challenges, when I'm doing the trailhead, when I'm cooking, like everything. There is a lot of things, but like one thing, like if I have to say, like when I was working as a teacher, we used to have a kid, and it is during COVID time, and she is like first time coming to school, so she's kind of like scared of the toilets. And like my co-teacher used to kind of like, you know what, let me do it for her. And she used to kind of like always used to help her, like instead of her telling and asking, or like giving support to her and asking her to flush. So one day, like when my co-teacher is not here, I kind of like connected with her, like sat with her and talked about it. And when we are all using the restroom, like I stood next to her and I asked her to flush the toilet. Then she became comfortable. Then I stood near the door. I asked her to flush the toilet. Like that, it kind of like, and after that, after like maybe a couple of weeks or so, she was so comfortable, and she always does that herself. Yeah.
Yeah. So that wasn't a fail, right? That was actually a success. So
Yes.
right. So we wanted to find out a time that the things didn't go right. So just think of an example where things didn't go well, because we want, like, right, when it didn't go well, why didn't it go well, then how you fixed it. So just for next time, to save another example. But thank you for participating.
Actually, yeah, thank you, Tracy.
So just last but not the least, Melissa.
Come on down, Melissa. You're next contestant.
Okay. Hi, my name is Melissa Masinko. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm the oldest of 3. I live in San Diego, and I've been a military spouse for 8 years. I'm a newly Salesforce certified administrator looking to transfer into a full-time business analyst or consultant role. I have an associate's degree in math and science, besides my Salesforce administrator certification. I also have my Salesforce associate certification, my Scrum Master certification, and my Google Project Management certification. In addition, I have experience using Jira, a project management tool. I'm looking forward to learning more about what you look for in a Salesforce candidate.
Melissa, you hit all the points, but I tell you, you read that off a script, right? So you have to be able just to tell me that, and all the information is good, but you have to just practice being able to talk about it, because it was very scripty, which is not a bad thing. We have to start somewhere, but it was very obvious that you practice it, which is totally cool. But in an interview, you just want to be a little bit more personable and just be able to to talk about it in a normal way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, but the information is perfect. So great job on that. Can you tell me about a project that you're proud of?
Yeah, so I enjoy living a holistic life, and for me, that makes for like better problem solving. So in 2021, I took a look at my personal finances, and I talked to my husband, and I told him, you know, we need to start taking our personal finances like more seriously. So him and I decided to save for like a treasure chest, aka an emergency fund. So I started like tracking my expenses, coming up with a budget, and him and I worked together to make this like our goal and to increase our savings rate. So we were able to do that in 2 years.
That's a really great project. I mean, that's a really, really good project. You told me, right, you did the STAR, right? You gave me a situation, a task, action, and result. I think that was a really good example, and you did it really in a more natural way, so good job. How about a time that you failed?
So I feel like I have failed at failing, meaning that it was I had to learn how to fail. It was just when I first started like failing, it was really difficult for me, and I had to learn to pick myself up. A good example of this is when I failed my Salesforce admin exam, and people around me were passing. So I had to ignore like all of the noise and just continue studying and having faith that I'm going to pass the exam. So I got my mindset straight, and I took the exam again, and I passed.
I think that's a great example of a failure, because like, right, I think it's such a true thing. Like I have learned too, learning to fail is super, super hard. Like that was a really good example. And again, it's very natural. So great job. Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
All right, that was it. Thanks a lot, Tracy, and thanks everyone for participating. Let me share screen and do that wheel of names. Do you see my screen?
See the screen, the wheel, the wheel.
Okay, there you go. Click to spin.
Click to
Tracy's
spin.
not on there. She should be on there.
Who?
Tracy should be on there.
Oh no.
Tracy.
I do not have to be on there. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Saida.
All right, we have a winner. You said there's 3 winners, though, right?
I hope, is she here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay. Please, I'll type my email, and you can reach out to me, and I will get your particulars and send you the address. I have 2 more winners. Don't go.
Winners. We want the winners. Come on.
All right.
All right, let's see it. Spin that wheel.
Spin that wheel.
Who's gonna win? Oh, that was so close. Louisa, I spelled that for you.
All right. But I'll be able to send only. So are you guys based out of US?
Yeah. I live in Washington.
Okay, that should be fine.
I thought it will stop at Lucy Lee, but I didn't expect that.
I know,
That was a close one. That was a close one.
Okay. Close. Last time.
Spin the wheel. No whammies.
Rachel. Is she here?
I think she left, but she definitely is in the US. So you have to
Right.
be.
If she left, then I'll give someone else a chance.
Oh, you have to be present for the prize. I don't know
Yeah,
that's the
you
rules.
have to be present. Okay, let's go again.
All right, spin that wheel. No whammies.
John.
Oh,
Tim.
John, are you here to get your prize?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, you're here.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you.
All right. So I'll just, this is my email. You can reach out to me. and send me your, so you just reach out to me and I'll ask your particulars and send you something. A surprise gift.
That's awesome. Were we able to share my links out, or should I share that screen for people to connect with me?
Oh, yeah.
Let me share my screen.
I'll stop share.
Just so people can connect with me. Let me share my screen, the right screen, hopefully. 2, here we go. Oh, how do I get mock interviews? All right, so here's ways to connect with me. If you want my LinkedIn, you want to, can we put that in the chat? Let me put that in the chat. Let me chat that out. My LinkedIn. Then we have my Twitter. Ooh, come here. What's got that? Oops, it did not work as well as other one. Come back. Don't hate that. Technology. See, I'm failing. I lost the whole thing. So I'm going to stop sharing. And then that's my LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter or put in there. It's just Tracy Aaron Green. At Tracy Aaron Green. And then if you want to connect, you can find me on the internet anywhere. Tracy Aaron Green is how you can find me. Thank you for having me. It was a great experience.
All right. Thanks everyone for participating. So see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.